Previously on the Leaky Bucket podcast.
I then scaled this quite fast into festivals. The festival world is, let's just say, it's murky. There's lots of money, hundreds of thousands of pounds an event, and the festival world is a closed shop. So if you make one festival, you get to speak to people, then they get, you get to the next one, and then the brands say, could you go to this one? And it's like a trusted network of people. I had no idea what I was doing. I had cash under the washing machine, and we didn't pay tax, and I had no idea that it never occurred to me, no one ever told me, if you don't put this revenue through the business and pay tax on it, then when you come to sell the business, because it looks like it never happened, there's no value in any of this. Like every naivety you can ever imagine.
Hi there, and welcome to the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'm your host, Ian Morgan, and this is the financial performance podcast for entrepreneurs looking to get a better understanding of their numbers, to plug the leaks in their business, and to move from surviving to thriving. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. Today we have with us Matthew Davis, who's an attorney and entrepreneur that has led his solely owned firm, Davis Business Law, grew over 1,000% growth over 6 years, making one of the very rare law firms ever to make the Inc. 5000 list. Matthew has also written, I believe, 2 books, if that's correct, Matthew, and The Art of Preventing Stupid and The Strong Protected Business as well. Got that in line for publication in 2020. Matthew, you've got 5 children and you live out in Oklahoma. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here and talk some business today.
Brilliant. Matthew, let's let the audience get a little bit of a chance to get to know you. First of all, what, in your opinion, are you most well known for?
Well, I'm a lawyer and was a business litigator and then also general counsel. I do a lot of that work. And then I kind of joke and kind of not that I had a midlife crisis and started a law firm, and we do small business. So, we take companies up to, $1 million, maybe is kind of average. Those companies that are small businesses, we've got a few big businesses. I'm doing the general counsel work again for about a $250 million company right now. But, our law firm, which I own, but it's a team. We run like a growth company, and so we're spread out. We're growing fast, and we dial in about 30% of growth a year, and figure out how to do it.
Fantastic, Matthew. What do people misjudge about you the most?
Well, misjudge in the sense it's, when I started law school, Dean Swank had us all come in and just told lawyer jokes for an hour, right? And I said, just do it. This is your life. This is what you're going to hear for you graduate from law school. We really operate very differently than I think a lot of people expect me and my firm be a lot more than we are. We don't tolerate that. We want as people and who, our first core value is believe and protect their dreams. And second one is create solution. So the misjudgment would be where we're coming from, because not only do we like to work proactively with our clients, but the attitude is decidedly different.
Brilliant. And then, Matthew, what's your top 3 values that you live by?
Well, I just said 2 of them. One is believe and protect their dream. And by the way, that goes for the people that work for us too. Because, here's my Richard Branson right here, this one, while we're on the English podcast, he talks about take care of your employees, take care of your customers. So, first thing is internally believe and protect their dreams. And when I'm interviewing people, one of the first things we look for is, can I make their life better? And and can I do it in the long haul? And so, but then that also is true for our clients because they come to us to deal with their problems and their opportunities. And we need to believe in them. We need to go, okay, yeah, we can, go into the second core value. We can create solutions for these problems because, you know, there are two types of people in the world in this regard. There's people who create solutions and problem bringers. And, the problem bringers and everybody hates to deal with them. Well, there's a lot of them in the law business too. And, the third one is we really believe in communication, um, because that's one thing people hate about the law business is lawyers don't communicate with them. They don't keep them informed about what's going on with their case. And one of the rules I learned years ago is call them before they call you. Right.
And I think I'm just thinking like you in the introduction, I mentioned about you having sort of over 1,000% growth over 6 years. When you then diverted to then talking about the values in your introduction, you talked about very much the team. I feel like there's a strong sense of culture and everything that you're doing. For you, what does success now mean?
Well, success for me personally means that I'm not in the trenches of the law business doing cases on a day-to-day basis. I felt very successful. I had to go over to our county courthouse here the other day, and all the judges looked at me and went, and they said, "We haven't seen you all year. Where have you been?" And I was pretty happy about that. So I'm really enjoying the freedom of going from a practicing lawyer to a CEO of was pretty, it's a substantial growth company now. And we're up to 13 lawyers and we'll add 6 next year. So
But what's what's been your what's been your biggest challenge in terms of moving yourself from being that technical lawyer to being a CEO?
oh wow. The biggest, I mean, it's every day. And I was just cleaning my bookshelf. That's why I knew right where Richard Branson's book was. But one of my favorite books is Harvey McKay's book, Swim with the Sharks Without Getting Eaten Alive. One of the things he says in there, I talk about this all the time, is this idea that I can't believe how stupid I was 2 weeks ago. Right. And the idea is you're constantly just growing, constantly going, how did I miss? How did I not see that? And maybe that's the point, is getting comfortable with knowing that business is just a constant process of discovery. It's a constant process. If you're the leader of personal growth, of figuring out, okay, there's always stuff to learn. You can only do so much in a day, but also not being mad at yourself because of all the mistakes you make, but looking at mistakes like just an opportunity to grow.
So was that part of the inspiration for the title of your book?
Uh, what the title of the book is The Art of Preventing It. And you know as well as I do that entrepreneurs, they have a lot of swagger to them. They all think they're 13 feet tall and bulletproof. And I'm trying to provoke them to go, okay, guys, let's slow down. Let's not worry about strategic planning for just a few seconds here. Let's quit making stupid mistakes. So I'm intentionally trying to provoke them, kind of, not really insult them, but make them think, hey, okay, let's prevent some stupid errors. Let's prevent the unforced errors. And one of the taglines I use all the time is, let's deal with your vulnerabilities so you can capitalize on your opportunities.
Pretty interestingly, I have something very similar that I talk to people about. I talk about business owners they need an ego to get started because every business owner thinks that they are better than everybody else doing what they do, and probably people not doing opposite what they do. But there becomes a point then to hit the next level that somehow you have to be able to lower the amount that ego comes through, particularly when you're trying to engage staff. You can't hire great staff and then have an ego that you think you're always better than them. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
have to be able to see them and recognize when they're better than you and let them be free to do what they're good at doing.
Yeah. There's so much truth in that. I get it.
Um, I think it might be a little bit personal, but what do you think's the most what do you think the most stupid thing is that you've caught yourself doing 2 weeks ago?
Oh, well, within the last couple weeks, that's yeah, that I'm not insulted by anything personal. I just had to remap out all of our growth strategy for next year, and that's very present on my mind because I I had our business. I redid our business plan for next year, and I had it completely disaster. It was just a mess. Um, wow, what have I done? It's any given day. I'm like, gosh. So I I don't have a very good answer because that's going to change tomorrow. So
Okay. So for you, going back to the success thing, is success very much in the moment because actually you're always aware that there's a potential of something that you're going to learn tomorrow that makes what you were doing today wrong.
that's true. But for me, success, I really like it when we set a plan, we set a yearly goal, and we hit it. And so, we're coming to the end of the year, and I'm looking at our numbers, and Jamie and Trisha, those are the financial ladies, and they're so good. And we will usually dial in our both revenue and expenses within 1%, which is fantastic. We might be off a little bit on revenue this year, but we'll be within 3 or 4% of what we were shooting for, which is fantastic. That's a great feeling. And by the way, when you do things like that and you achieve those goals, it makes you feel so much more confident in what you're doing. And in a similar vein, we've learned to manage things we're trying to improve by using what we call rolling 12 trackers. So what we'll do, like with well, let's talk Google reviews right now. So, that's important in business is having good reviews. And so here we are, November, December, whichever, and we will track, that'll be the current month right in the middle. We'll track back 6 to see where we're going, and we'll set the goal going forward for the next 6. And then you accomplish that stuff and you see it happening month over month. Wow, that just makes you feel great. And that's success on that particular project.
Brilliant. Matthew, I think there's probably plenty of people who could look at the life that you're now living and think, oh, you've got it all done for you, everything's all great and everything's all easy for you. What's the reality? What are some of the challenges? And you've alluded to some of the bits you've got at the moment, but what are some major challenges that you've got going on where it's not easy every day?
Yeah, it's not. Right now we do strategic planning. We use Vern Harnish's scaling up. And my rocks this quarter we're breaking our client intake system and rebuilding it because we dropped down below 20% on client conversions from qualified leads. And I'm like, guys, this is horrible. And by the way, we get that up to 30%. We just grew the firm by 50%, right? So, that's a challenge right now. We're working on kind of some file management stuff because we're spread out. We operate in 6 markets and we're going to add 2 more markets next year. And like, that's a challenge of figuring out how to do that. you get some things that start working, and it's exciting. I mean, our recruiting process has been so successful this year. We just hired 2 attorneys, one in Oklahoma City, one in Kansas City. And whenever we post on LinkedIn and whenever we do that, the recruiters come out of the woodwork and they're like, "Hey, we'd love to." I'm like, "No, I don't want to talk to you," because they will eat an entire first year of profit off that new attorney just with their recruiting fee. I'm like, "I'm not going to talk to you." And, so we've, successfully recruited 2 new lawyers in the last couple months, fraction of the cost. I mean, less than a tenth of the cost of what a recruiter would cost us. So I guess the answer is, um, there's always challenges, but man, when you get stuff working, that's really exciting.
Matthew, let's just go back a little bit. Like, take me maybe to your early life, and feel free for wherever that feels right to lead me through to how did you end up doing what you're now doing?
Well, I come from a professional. We're a family settled out here. They came from Pennsylvania, and, originally from Wales, Ireland, mostly, and Switzerland, I guess. My mom's Swiss, and I grew up in a professional family, and my dad. I always thought I'd go to law school, and I thought I was going to be a Washington lawyer. I used to work for U.S. Department of Energy, and I just decided I didn't want to do that. And I called my girlfriend who was in Los Angeles. She was a TV producer with ABC, and we came back here, and 26 years and 5 kids later, here we are. And I just built a business on the ground in a provincial town, not unlike Gloucester, right? I mean, it's one of the bigger towns down here, and it's a regional center. And I built a good business by taking care of people. And by the way, I learned a lot of really valuable things in a smaller market because we take care of people differently than they do in a bigger town where the bigger cities are, where people are and the clients are easier to come by, and they treat them more disposably. And, incidentally, I encourage a lot of my friends who are in business to branch out. The closest bigger cities would be Oklahoma City, Wichita, and Tulsa. I'm like, go, because we outcompete them because we take better care of our clients.
Matthew, you've got a good area of crossover, right, between your beliefs and particularly how you've done, I suppose, in your element of your book and the art of preventing stupid. Our element of the leaky bucket probably isn't preventing stupid, but what it's doing is that process of, can you stop and just look back and go, what stupid decisions have you maybe made in the past, and what haven't you really fixed, and what holes have they left? What's your number one? First of all, what do you think the number one mistake business owners make is?
I don't think there is one. Well, I mean, for startups, I mean, if you want to get right down to it, it's people going into business with other people because they think they need them and they don't. And
Yep.
because what happens is, okay, there's a fair answer. The idea is people go, "Oh, okay, I don't know how to do this, but so I'm going to have to bring in a partner to help me." And I'm always frank with people, and I'm kind of blunt and kind of maybe even a little crude about it. I'm just like, partnership is like marriage without sex. You want to sign up for that? And that gets their attention real fast. But and by the way, we end up doing this, we just call them business divorces all the time. And but the one of the things we always talk about in and by the way, there's some real similarity to your outlook of the leaking bucket and then what I wrote about in Art of Preventing Stupid is we break it down and we say there's three sources of your problems or your vulnerabilities, your threats, whatever you want to call it. And one are catastrophes, which are disasters or things you can't control. One is ignorance of what you don't know. And you have to be real honest with yourself about what you don't know. And then you have to go get educated about it. But, there's always learning curves. I mean, I'm still on learning curves all the time. And when you're honest about what you don't know and insightful about it, that's when you don't need partners because you can learn and grow.
So if you were going to give a tip to somebody then, right, let's say they started a business, they haven't taken on a partner. What's the number one thing they can do to prevent major issues within their business then forward?
Well, prevent major. Okay, so I was with a friend the other day, and she's got a small marketing agency, digital agent, and it's just starting out. And I dug in on Michael Gerber's E-Myth with her because she was talking about growing her business. And I said, first thing you have to understand is there's three parts of any business in this. And of course, that's just one way of slicing it up. But, you need to understand there's technicians, there's managers, and there's entrepreneurs. And when you can understand that, and if you're going to grow your business, make a plan and figure out, how to get yourself, first in the manager level and then ultimately in a strictly entrepreneur level. And, for me, I'm mostly there. I could be if I wanted to, but I like to do some technical work because I like to stay involved. I did a case in Omaha and took our newest lawyer up there, and that was fun for him. He got to go with the boss and get in front of a Supreme Court judge, which was, kind of big time for him. So that first thing I always start. And when I teach business boot camp for the business incubators, that's one of the first things I talk about is understand the three different roles, because you get it conceptually, you can build from there.
Hey there. Really sorry for interrupting, but I really wanted to let you know about some amazing bonus content we have available for you. You see, not only do we record behind the scenes, but also we go deeper into some of the key topics that come up during the conversation. Now, you can find out more about this and access all of it free of charge over on Facebook. Just search for the Leaky Bucket Podcast Community.
Matthew, you alluded to it earlier that you use, I think, the scaling up method for strategic planning. I'm not necessarily 100% familiar with it, but with any type of strategic planning, ultimately you're looking at how you get yourself from A to B. What are the big obstacles and how are you going to make sure that those big obstacles get moved first? What do you do to prevent yourself diverting off to those small little distractions that they seem big at the time because somebody's shouting about it, and for them it's a big issue, but it may not be for you? How do you prevent yourself getting distracted by those?
Yeah, and that's have you ever seen the Eisenhower matrix? Stephen Covey, right? Yeah, that's of course part of it is it important or is it just urgent, right? The way I stay focused on the main priorities, which scaling up calls rocks, which again is a nod to Stephen Covey. I keep it taped front and center on my desk. So I'm looking at it every day going, these are the main things I need to get done. And by the way, we view everybody, the leadership as rocks at every leadership meeting. And, that's sort of using a little bit to make sure they're getting it done. So I'm pretty good. My whole team's pretty staying on point there.
Matthew, you also mentioned the team and how important obviously they are. How do you go about recruiting people, and how important is like a defined culture and everything that you have within your organization to doing that and to keeping people?
It is critically, totally, absolutely, period, amen, important. And we use a combined a process, let me put it this way, of Jeff Smart's Who book and his dad, Brad Smart, wrote Fighting, which was great, but it's like Greek Testament. And the unwrote Who, and the main principle of that book is really the leopard doesn't change its spots. Okay. People have a through line in their life. And the other book we slammed together with Who is called Hiring for Attitude by, I think it's Mark Murphy. Shit. It's right here. Yeah, it's Murphy. I don't know his first name. Fantastic, fantastic. And what it teaches is to just find your culture. He talks about Southwest Airlines, okay? And he talks about brown shorts. And, Southwest Airlines came out of Texas, and, Ryanair is kind of designed around the Southwest model. But everybody who flies on Southwest, that they either love it or they hate it. But their culture is expressed in how they do business. But the story he tells is he got one of the guys, this is a Southwest Airlines recruiter, got 100 pilots in a room. They all were dressed in suits, right? They were all possible recruits. He held up a pair of brown shorts. He goes, "Who would rather be wearing these brown shorts?" A bunch of them raised their hands. He said, "Everybody leave." Okay. Point is, find your culture and know who you are. And the second about all that Murphy teaches, and again, we combine all this. When we run an ad, most law firm ads look like, "Hey, would come work for a prestigious law firm and wear a gray suit and be a pain in the behind to humanity," right? That's what they read like. And they're affordable. And there's a certain batch of people that want that. Ours is very chatty, very conversational. Would you actually like to work at a place where you can help people? Would you love coming to work and have a great work-life balance? And we literally say in the ad, we don't hire any Eeyore. And people either love our ad or they hate it. And if they hate it, guess what? I just got rid of people I don't want to work with anyway.
Brilliant. Do you take the same sort of approach with clients? Have they got to fit the culture as well?
Maybe to a lesser degree, but we will decline clients if it just doesn't, if it's not a fit, or more likely we'll decline a second representation, because sometimes it's hard to tell first time around. But I just had Ashley decline one, and Ashley's my right hand lawyer, and I'm like, I just don't think this guy's a good fit for us. It's just going to be trouble. So, yeah.
Did you always have a defined culture within the business?
No, absolutely not. And it's something you have to discover. And yeah, I mean, you have to discover it, but you have to work on it and figure it out and figure out who you are. Murphy's book is really good about helping you get that mapped out. And, the friend I was just talking about, sharing the E-Myth book with her. I also just bought Hiring for Attitude to give to her, because she's now got a couple part-time employees. I'm like, get your culture right. I mean, and maybe that's the point. If you can figure that out early on, you're ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking back. We've got similar. So again, we use Who for our recruitment process. We use EOS and Traction for our sort of strategic planning in that process. I think they're all a much and a muchness. To be fair, they're all very similar, but same concepts. but that was what introduced us to having a culture. And yeah, it was that almost light bulb moment to go, I've been hiring people for skills. And that's why sometimes we just don't get along and we don't see the world the same way.
Yeah.
And
Huge difference. And yes, by the way, scaling up is the same as traction. They will tell you it's different. I think I have 3 copies of traction right here because a lot of my clients use it. And so I've been to a lot of EOS training or strategy sessions, and it's same thing.
yep. Matthew, who do you have around you that helps you in terms of, those strategic decisions and making sure that you're double checking your sort of thoughts and processes?
I got just a great leadership team, really good, disciplined people. Jamie and Trisha, Jamie's really a firm administrator and Trisha's CFO. And oddly, they both started working for me as receptionists, one about 20 years ago, one about, maybe 23 or 24 years ago. And I told them both they were too smart to be working, just answering the phones and to go get college degrees. And they both went and got accounting degrees. And they're both just super smart. And we've worked together off and on. Once I started the firm, they're both like, let's go with Davis. And then the colonel is right over here. And Derek and I've known him, I don't know, my whole life. I can't even remember where I know him from. He's from one of the country towns, so to speak. And he then went to law school. He's 2 years older than I am. I grew up with his little sister. And he was a JAG officer. So that means he was an Air Force lawyer. And he was the number 2 lawyer for the U.S. military in Europe and answered to a 4-star general and then retired. And I said, hey, come back home and help me run this law firm. So he's been running lawyers for years. And, so we've got a really solid team. And then Kelly is doing our marketing. She's down in Oklahoma City. So yeah. And building that core team of people, it's Jim Collins talking about getting the right people on the bus. Okay.
Do you think if you didn't have that right culture and everything set up in your business, do you think you would then be going and getting a lot more outside influence to give that?
I think we would just be a disaster and I would be pulling my hair out and I wouldn't know what to do on any given day.
Brilliant. I think it's one of the things that's massively underrated. And I think a lot of people think culture, it just writes some values up on the wall and now and again point at them.
No,
yeah,
I mean, we hire and fire based upon it. And, we did a recruiting campaign. I mean, I was bragging about our recruiting campaigns working so well. And we did get 3 new lawyers. I just mentioned 2, but we did get 3 in the last 4 months. But we were initially we were looking in Houston, which is a big town. I mean, Houston's 7.5 million people. We got a lot of applicants and we narrowed it down to 1. Flew her up to Oklahoma City at, some expense and put her up in a nice hotel. And I mean, 30 minutes into the interview, I said, she doesn't fit our culture. And I took her back to the airport. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is just not going to work. And just walked away. I mean, that was the most expensive recruiting camp I've ever done. And we just walked away from it.
Yeah, I think what somebody said to me, when you get culture right, that actually you'll learn at that point, you can always teach skills.
Yeah.
What you can't do is you cannot reparent somebody.
Well put. I think, and one of my EO forum mates always said, what is it? Culture eats strategies lunch every day. Something like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Matthew, have you got anything particular within your industry that you're very strong on having an opinion on? The industry at large doesn't agree with you?
Oh yeah. And I have a pretty negative view of our industry. I am very much in tune with, let's figure out how to help people. Let's help them with their opportunities. Let's, I mean, I always talk about this. My mother was um, a gynecologist and, and lived here in our hometown. She grew up here too. And she was one of the pioneers back in the 70s, really pushing mammography, right? And I can't tell you, after 26 years again in our hometown, which is, 50, 60,000 people with more in the surrounding area, um, have come up to me and said, "Hey, your mom saved my life. Your mom saved my wife's life or my mom's life." And, you know, that's, that's how I look at things. As professionals, if we can teach people how to do better, how to live better lives, how to live better, business lives, that's what we ought to be doing. And law is really reactive. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But yeah, I aggravate a lot of people in the law business. Tough.
Yeah, tend to agree. It's we have a situation. I'm not sure if it's the same in the US, but certainly in the UK, most accountants are out there claiming to be different, but doing the same as 99% of the other firms.
Yeah.
And just go, why? Like, yeah, why claim to be something you're not? Like, if you want to be different, great, just be something different, and not everybody will like you. In fact, a lot of people probably won't. But yeah, you've got to be brave and yeah, put yourself out there.
Well, yeah. Oh, and by the way,
Go on.
one of the other things we do really differently is law firms just go around, as I say, collecting people with a bar card and a pulse. And I'm like, I know who can take great care of our clients. And, they may not always come from business law. I mean, again, we hire for attitude because it's the attitude and the basic skill set. We can refine the skill set and we plug those in with our clients. Bang, it's success. I see it all the time.
Does that mean, so you said obviously that you've hired a number of new lawyers recently. Are you bucking the trend of the market currently?
Well, that's an interesting thing. So, again, I'm in Entrepreneurs Organization, which you're probably familiar with, which is a worldwide group of entrepreneurs. And I am also in that, I'm in the EO Lawyers Group, which is, most of us are from America, but it's worldwide. We meet every month. And the American economy is kind of weird right now. New York my sense is they're having a hard time. Um, I live on the South Plains, and Oklahoma and Texas are growing rapidly right now because people are leaving California, and the kids that grew up here are staying here. So, I, uh, it's hard to say. I mean, there's not many. There's not many law firms that are growing like we are, even on the South Plains, but New York and Miami and some other places are definitely struggling.
You mentioned a number of business books, right? This, or even self-help books, I suppose, at different areas as well. Yeah. Have you got a particular favorite?
I have been culling my book list right here, and I'm not going to say I have one particular favorite book. I have just read BE 2.0 by Jim Collins. And Jim Collins wrote, of course, Good to Great's his most famous, Built to Last, and Great by Choice. BE 2.0 is a reissue of his first that came out about 1990. And what he did in BE 2.0, and I was just working on this, he said, I finally realized that all these books that I'd worked on are really one 30-year-old project. And let me be clear, BE 2.0 has a bunch of new material in it that he wrote. So there's improvements to the book in addition. And he's got a map in there, mapping out where all of his books fit together. And I'm down to really only paying attention to maybe 6 authors. Jim Collins is one. Greg Crabtree, Simple Numbers, is another one. And I'd commend that to you guys. Greg is brilliant. I read Simple Numbers the Friday after Thanksgiving every year and have for 6 years. And I'm about to do it again because it's the day before Thanksgiving. Of course, Mark Murphy, I think, is really good. So yeah, I'm down to just a few books that I really pay attention to because you can just swim in business books forever. And, of course, Scaling Up and Traction are good. And I've got a friend named Steve Pratt. I was just on his podcast, and his book Pinnacle, which is very much in line with Traction or Scaling Up. That's a great book too.
Have you also got some kind of favorite productivity or efficiency hack that the entrepreneurs should be doing?
I'm going to plug myself here, and I'm serious, and my book, The Art of Preventing Stupid, what it does, and you can go get these tools on our website, which is davisbusinesslaw.com, over in the resources tab. That the Business Immune System Report or the Strong Protected Business Report they're similar. They're just kind of looking at your business from a couple different lenses. Just brainstorming about where your vulnerabilities are and then making a plan of how to deal with them is really, really, really important. And I think that's one of the things that our business coach has said to us numerous times, and he's adopted our methodology of doing this. As have several business coaches are like, wow, this is really good at digging down and helping people avoid the unforced errors, not making the stupid mistakes. And when you do that, one of the platforms I'm always talking about in business, dealing with problems or opportunities, it's a binary choice. So everything you can do within reason and within efficiencies to stay in the opportunity space, do it. And that's one thing that we really do well that helps us not wallow down in problems.
Brilliant. Matthew, you alluded to it then about your website. Is that where people can find out the most about you?
Yeah.
Social media as well?
Yeah, I don't do a lot on social media. We do some on LinkedIn. And, but yeah, the website, the Davis Business Law website is probably the best place. I've got a personal one that I'm not keeping up very, very well right now. We're about to redo that because we're doing another book next year.
Fantastic. I'll make sure that that's within the show notes. Matthew, we've also got a little bit of a closing tradition on the podcast. And it's a little bit of a quirky left field one. And that is, if for some reason you had to start a new business tomorrow, completely unrelated to what you currently do, what would it be and why?
Oh, I've already got that. My wife asked me this question the other day. And she knew the answer. She was just afraid that I was going to say what I said. And I have started a new heavy metal band called Geriatric Steel. And we're getting ready to go record our first album out in Los Angeles. And one of our friends has a studio out there. And, I'm like, honey, I'm going to go play Rock Fest Bulgaria, walking over in Germany and all that. That's my, when I get older and we're taking the band on the road, just going playing rock festivals. So I've got my amplifier right here.
Fantastic. It beats the default answer that probably everybody would have thought of when they think, oh, there's a lawyer on the show, and that's it. You go play golf.
Oh God, I hate golf. I hate golf. It's like fake nature. And I used to, I come from farm people. I used to go hobby farm, and then I had my third child, and my wife told me, "You're done. No more trips to the farm on the weekend."
Matthew, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and I think there's some real great learnings there. Obviously, I think from basically what you said in terms of plugging yourself as well, maybe people need to go out and buy your book and see what they can learn and how they can prevent their own stupid decisions.
Hey, it makes a huge difference, and that's one thing. It's your theme too. I mean, it's your platform. Figure out where you're vulnerable. Figure out what dumb mistakes you're making. Deal with them, and you're going to do better. We're as our Spanish and Mexican friends say, we're simpatico, amigo.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'd love it if you could help spread the message by clicking subscribe and leaving a review. Also, please do reach out to me on LinkedIn and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can also find more info and links in the show notes below. See you next time. Coming next week on the Leaky Bucket podcast.
I had a small team of 4 designers and coders by the end of it, and then just one day literally it was just, I found I was working all hours under the sun just to try and sort of keep the thing moving forward efficiently and well, delivering the best possible service and products that we could to our clients. And I just massively unfulfilled. I'd done it for 12 years. I put in my shift, too many late nights and a slightly dysfunctional team, and I just, one day I was at my cycling buddies and I just had an epiphany. I was just like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't if somebody asked me, could you see yourself doing that for the next 10 years? I was like, absolutely not. I can't even see myself doing it for another year. And I went home to my wife, who was 8 months pregnant, got a big bump, and said, darling, I've got some news for you. I'm going to close the agency down. I've had enough of it.